IG Mutyambai, having been appointed member of the National Police Service Commission under the National Police Service Commission Act of 2011, do swear that I will at all times obey, respect, and uphold the Constitution of Kenya and all other laws of the Republic, that I will faithfully and fully, impartially, and to the best of my knowledge and ability, discharge the trust, perform the function, and exercise the powers devolving upon me by virtue of this appointment without fear, favor, bias, affection, ill will, or prejudice. So help me God.
There we go. Inspector General of Police IG Mutyambai has assumed office with the promise to revolutionize services during his 4 years at the helm of the National Police Service. He quoted a few issues that he says he would like to deal with during his tenure. That is corruption and the state of security in the country, specifically touching on terrorism and cattle rustling in certain areas of this country. That is the big story that we are focusing on this evening. What sort of in-tray does Mutyambai now have for the next 4 years? This is the big story. Thank you so much for joining us. So we'll be having this conversation with Peter Kiama. He's the Executive Director, Independent Medical Legal Unit, otherwise known as IMLU. We'll also be speaking to Samson Cherargei. He's the Senator, Nandi County. But for now, let me take you over to our lead reporter, Sophia Wanuna. Sophia, this is a man who has a lot in his in-tray, looking at some of the issues that have been raised with respect to the welfare of the police and the issues around that entire police force.
Good evening, Linda. Yes, so indeed, the new Inspector General of Police, the third in the Republic, was sworn in earlier today. IG Mutyambai has taken over as Inspector General of the Kenya Police Service, and he's promising to continue with the police reforms. We saw those being what the former IG Boynet highlighted as one of his achievements. Of course, there are those who look at that differently from what he sees as a success. However, at this point, this new Inspector General of Police is taking office. Leaders from the north, Kerio Valley to be specific, just last week held a press conference and said the new Inspector General of Police must first address himself to the violence in the Kerio Valley. And I want to speak a little bit more about just what exactly has been going on. In just the past week, 2 primary school children, one in class 3 and 5, were shot dead. There was a burial, of course, ceremony following the same, but also protest that more action be done, that the national security apparatus, the Interior Ministry, focus on what has been going on in that part of the country for years now, unabated. And joining me for this conversation is the Senate Majority Leader, also Senator Elgeyo Marakwet County. Thank you for making time for us, Kipchumba Murkomen. Let's begin first with painting a picture for us. We keep hearing about the Kerio Valley Triangle, the Kerio Valley region, and various counties being touched. To paint for us that map.
Well, where Kerio Valley is generally where, Elgeyo Marakwet County, West Pokot, Turkana, Samburu, and Baringo counties are situated. Those 5 counties share the Kerio River and the valley itself. And this is an area that basically has a great potential because River Kerio is very important. The Takwel Gorge, where we have the electricity, the generation of the electricity. This is an area also where you have the various rivers, the Kimware River you're talking about, the Aro River, the Embobut River, all of them very potential for generation of electricity and irrigation. It's an area that is beautiful, full of potential for first of all, there is already established presence of minerals, including GDC. GDC having worked there, geothermal energy is also found in that region. It's potential for wind energy and so many good things that are happening in that region. Unfortunately, this is an area that has been hampered by insecurity. And this insecurity is very complex. It's complex because Kerio Valley region extends up to the border of Kenya and Sudan and the border of Kenya and Uganda. And so some of the problems we used to face in the past between Pokot and Karamojong on the other side and the Turkanas and Karamojong, and now you have the Turkanas and the Sudan side of the border. And one of the reasons why insecurity is rampant in this region is proliferation of small arms. There is a porous border. One of the challenges we deal with when you talk about insecurity is because the small arms are not just acquired locally, they come through Sudan and those parts of northern Uganda. And the problem with that is that these are areas also that are struggling with insecurity in their regions and conflicts and fights. And so it's easy for them to get guns, bullets, and so forth that are sold to those regions. Now, this problem is also compounded by the level of development in the region. Kerio Valley region is left back. It's part of the sort of like the northern frontier, which covers all the northeastern. Then you get to those areas of Kerio Valley. You'll find that for many years it had been left out. It's at the moment that you can now start hearing that there are roads being constructed in that region, irrigation projects are being started. You have heard of Aurora and Kimware dams that are being constructed in that area, particularly Aurora and Kimware are supposed to actually irrigate the Tiati constituency, one of the most, part of the Elgeyo Marakwet, but also Tiati constituency, one of the most dangerous areas when it comes to hiding of criminals and this criminal gang that is terrorizing people in the region. The problem with the insecurity is that it's been there for so long. Prior to at about
so long, how many years? Because one of the legislators were talking about 6 years unabated. Is that correct?
The last 6 years have been unabated. Let me put it that way, on and off. But remember, this is something that started in about 1991, yeah, and it's been there for about 30-something years. In 2002, when President Kibaki came to office, there was a ceasefire, there was a conversation with the local leadership, there was an agreement on how we are going to solve conflict. The MP of Marakwet East at that time and the one of Tiati managed to get a working agreement. But there was an explosion again in 2014, which is that makes it about 5 years. Shortly when we came to office, we have faced this challenge continuously. And we've put in place so many we have had talks. We went with the National Cohesion Commission to that region. We've had to bring together elders. To me, it seems like the old system. The young people of this time don't listen to elders like they used to listen before. Because in the past, once elders say we want to sit down and converse, the young people would listen. But on both sides, on all these counties, there is a growing list of young people whose, initially raids and cattle rustling was just was cultural and for purpose of meeting cultural demands for purpose of marriage and so forth. But now it's moved beyond that. It's become purely business. Most of the people who steal livestock from one area to the other have already ready market where they go and sell to certain people. And, find sometimes when we follow livestock that is stolen from our county, you hear they have moved to a market in Chemalingot and it's being moved to Dagoretti, Nairobi, and all that region. So now there is an economic desire. They don't even just go and keep the livestock. They want actually to sell, and they are already business people. We can say the cartels in that region who benefit from that. You go fatten the cows, and then they can sell them. That's why you find this story of spilling from even Samburu sometimes up to Laikipia. Because the livestock is brought there, it's fattened, they graze there, and then they are sold in market. So that is really a problem that we are dealing with. As leaders of that region, we took responsibility, and we've been taking responsibility to talk to our people, even make peace agreements. Like, for example, border between us and West Pokot, we had put peace committees from both sides. Right. And sometimes, you stay for about 2-3 months, and then it starts again. Right. Because, and I can't blame one side. I must be very frank. Right. We have criminals on both sides, on all sides of the counties.
So then let me jump in there as you proceed with the point. So what needs to happen? Because you have talked about the peace efforts, whether it's with the elders. We've seen the former IG, the CS in that region, all these conversations and deals made, but that has not worked. So it appears then we cannot continue doing the same thing and expect a different result. In your view, what is that new thing you'd advise the incoming IG to focus on to ensure that once and for all this is dealt with? Because we're talking about children in school being killed, innocent children. Teachers can no longer go there to teach because their lives are not, safe in as far as are they going to be able to continue their mandate and their safety be assured, those of their children. How do we truly deal with this?
Our last conversation with the CS Interior, we agreed that a Marshall Plan must be put in Kerio Valley. When we went there with CS Machangi, one of the things that we put in place, he announced and it was put in place, was to have a command structure with a special commissioner who was going to be in charge of the all counties as one. And that there was a special command structure that the IG put in place that was also going to deal with all the counties without a commander in Elgeyo Marakwet on his own or West Pokot and so forth. Unfortunately, this has not been sustained. It worked, by the way. The only problem is that the long-term plan, the sustainability and stickability in the region is missing, because the Interior Ministry put those measures for that period. Then there was lull, and then after that, we didn't even know when the commissioner left. We didn't even know the commander left which day. And I feel like this is my plea to the CS Interior. I think the CS Interior is being distracted from his proper job. Now is dealing now with projects, chairing meetings every Tuesday about projects and so forth. I think, and I want to say this with utmost respect, that the people of North Rift want their CS to focus on security. And if the structures he had put in place that time had been followed through, and if these meetings that the CS is having all the time were focusing on security, would sort out the insecurity issue. The CS Interior needs to follow through those strategies that had been put in place. That includes having that command structure of the police that covers, if it is in the triangle of West Pokot, Baringo, and Elgeyo Marakwet, you have that command structure there. The Turkana corner with the Pokot, the Turkana corner with the Samburus. If we put Samburus and Laikipia, if that is going to be done, if it's going to do that and concentrate on sorting out this menace of banditry, we are going to solve the situation. Yeah. Number two, the new IG who is coming in place must also create the command structure that Jaji Boynet had put in place. We have what helped for a short time was the presence of what we call the reservist, the police reservists that are hired at the local level. It really helped. But you see, those people were promised to be paid. They have not been paid. They were promised also training and integration so that they work together from both sides of the counties. It doesn't become only exclusively you stick to the side of your county. And then there was supposed to be a command structure on the ground that will ensure that there is no misuse of the police reservists on both sides of the counties. So if you pay them and they are accounting all the time, then you are going to have a solution. And I believe the citizens are ready. They have done everything that's possible. By the way, I feel ashamed to say this, that in 2000 and in 1997, 98 there, we had 11 children killed in Tot, when they were going for polio vaccination. It's very sad that 2 weeks ago, and I mean 1 week, the last 1 week, 2 children were killed who are school-going children in class 6 and class 7. Even when you go to the funeral, what are you going to tell those parents, And I must say that because of the strategies that have been put in place for that short period of time, I'm telling you, a school like Tot Secondary School, which at the time which was so bad, had only 41 students from both Pokot, which is Tiatich, and Elgeyo Marakwet, shot up to, when we went with the DP there 3 weeks ago, it had 1,200 students. Now, we have the potential of returning all these young people to school if we put security in place.
So let me ask you this. The President addressed the nation last week, that State of the Nation address, and it's a constitutional requirement and mandate. Yes. And one of the areas he's supposed to speak to is the state of security. Yeah. Are you, as a leader from that region, disappointed that he did not speak of the insecurity ravaging Kerio Valley? Because imagine if that was a situation in Nairobi.
Yeah.
closer to the central national government. This would be an issue that we're talking about every day. It would be an issue that perhaps would receive more attention. It can be argued. So I wonder what you make of that he made no mention of it. Is it still a marginalized part of the country in your view?
In my view, I think, first of all, we have downplayed what is cattle rustling in this country and made it look like it's a cultural thing when people are dying. It's not being dealt with as for what it is, as a crime, as murder, mass murder, actually crimes against humanity. The naming, the typology that is used in describing what is cattle rustling has actually made it look like it's just an easy thing. Number two, remember what I told you, that the president's speech on anything depends on what is collected from the various ministries. It's a demonstration of those who are working on security sector to show that they don't take it as a serious issue, because ultimately they report to the president before the president can report to the ground. But I must admit, though, that under the leadership of IG Mutyambai, a lot was done in that region. The problem is tightening the loose ends and stickability and following through, so that we can, if we can follow through, have public officers on the ground that do their job. Because every time, you must have seen, even in the public, anything happens in those regions, leaders are blamed. Our responsibility is to deal with peace building. But dealing with crimes, dealing with people who have guns, dealing with the proliferation of small arms, that is the responsibility of the state. We can assist them in talking to our young people not to engage themselves in crime, but ultimately when it comes to protection of citizens and their property, that is the responsibility of the state.
Finally and briefly, should aspects of security be devolved to ensure perhaps there's people who appreciate the kind of challenge being dealt with at the grassroots level involved in decision making?
I think because security and peace building is a bigger concept, more than just enforcement of dealing with guns and so forth, maybe counties should be empowered to deal with the peace building. Nothing stops them to do so now, but I think those counties, and I've insisted that they should even have someone at the level of chief officer in all the counties that deals with only peace building, that talks to the elders, creates opportunities to talk to young people and so forth on matters of security, as national government continue dealing with the part of the hard part of it, which includes guns and so forth. Because if you tell policemen to be commanded in counties, already leaders are being blamed in those regions that they are fueling conflict, then it will be very difficult because suspicions will be there. It's important that it remains national in character, but aspects of peace building be devolved to a county, given the resources to bring people together.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kipchumba Murkomen, the leader of majority in the Senate, and Elgeyo Marakwet, Senator. And of course, as you continue the conversation, Linda in studio, you had, and I was speaking about some of the legislators as well from that part of the country, Kerio Valley, who are saying the new IG must address this issue. Kerio Valley and the insecurity there must be addressed most urgently. And perhaps to speak to the desperation that some of these leaders are feeling, one of them was suggesting that teachers be allowed to carry guns, because if the government is not present to protect the pupils, the mothers, the fathers, families in that region, then perhaps to still allow for education to proceed, because imagine the impact that is having when schools have to close down, when students are not feeling safe to report to school. That has detrimental, of course, effects in the long run. So, Linda, an important conversation, and we will see and be watching and covering what the new IG will be doing in coming days.
Yeah, trust me, that is one thing we will do. I listened into his speech today, Mutyambai, and he gave an assurance to Kenyans, which I'll play for you a little later on, just basically saying, you need to trust me, you've got to work with me, you've got to work with me and my team. I cannot do this on my own. So let's have a conversation about Mutyambai's entry. We're doing that with Samson Cherargei, who's an Nandi senator, is joining us all the way from Mombasa. Sir, thank you so much for your time. We also have Peter Kiama, who's the executive director, IMLU, short form for Independent Medical Legal Unit. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on The Big Story this evening. So allow me to start with you, Mheshimiwa. Kipchumba Murkomen has just painted a picture of what exactly is happening in the Rift Valley. So that is the view from Rift Valley. But I know you are in Mombasa today, and you're listening into some of the sentiments of the local residents there on the relationship they've had with security forces on the ground. So tell me a little bit about what you heard, because during the day I had you telling them tumesikia malilio yenu. Ni malilio gani ambayo mulisikia? What sort of concerns did they raise?
Good evening, Linda, and I can see you are trying Kiswahili. Anyway, we are in the county where Kiswahili is widely spoken.
Yeah.
And nataka nishukuru sana. Today, as Senate Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights Committee, we did have a public inquiry into extrajudicial and forced disappearance. And here in Coast, there are so many issues that you can say, and I think Senator Murkomen has greatly painted the picture in the North Rift. You can see South Rift also, there is a problem in Kerio with killer gangs. I think also what we learn here in Coast is that security is a bit, it is the tray of Mutyambai is very full. What we learned today is that there is still mistrust between the public and the police. There is still a lot of mistrust, especially in this region, considering that this region has been hit largely by extremism, terrorism, drugs, which is crime-related, criminal gangs. You remember earlier this year when we went to Shimolateo on Friday, we met prison authorities and the resident magistrate. And you have to realize that most of the young people who are in Likoni wielding machetes have been arrested. And when we went to Kwale, the similar situation where more than 46 people have been killed in mysterious circumstances in Kwale, and mostly chairman of Nyumba Kumi. So what we learned today is that Mutyambai has his tray full. There's a lot of mistrust because people are blaming the police largely on the issue of disappearances, on the issue of extrajudicial killings. And we didn't talk to some county commissioner of Mombasa. He assured us that there is no day that the government has sat and planned. We talked to the DPP and DCI separately. They are investigating most of these issues. But I think what is important for Mr. Mutyambai is to bring that confidence and trust back to the public to believe in the police service. Say that they don't see it as a police service, they don't see it as a police force, but a police service. And I think this region, by a large extent, apart from challenges of drug, challenges of terrorism, extremism that is very rife in this region, the police are trying their best. But I think, and finally, what is very important, and we realize there are so many unresolved extrajudicial killings in this region. I know we have in Dandora and Kayole, and we'll be intent to visit Kayole and Dandora to listen to those issues. There is still a lot of unresolved cases that is lying, and I think IG Mutyambai, in as much as he wants to fight corruption in the police service, he wants to bring trust and confidence, he wants to motivate police officers. And I think the biggest challenge also as he comes to office is the issue when we interacted with various security agencies also and various security apparatus. They have an issue with also their welfare as police officers. So there are so many issues, but the major issue we learned today is that there is a mistrust on the police force, on the police service, and I hope Hillary will bring that confidence and that trust from the public again.
Peter Kiama, the senator says the one thing that Inspector General Mutyambai has to deal with is trust, and that is an issue that even the previous IG Boynet had to deal with at some point. So basically, looking at the explanation that the senator is giving, this has to be his first stop. He cannot achieve the rest of the things he's talking about if he doesn't have the public trust.
Yeah. Thank you, Leader. Yes, Senator is spot on that particular issue, because security and safety are not goods to be given to the people. Security and safety comes through partnerships between uniformed officers and citizens who are the main beneficiaries or the end beneficiaries of security and safety interventions. Therefore, there is a need for the Inspector General to prioritize the nurturing of trust between the people and uniformed police officers. Otherwise, if that gap remains, then there isn't much hope with regard to either transforming the service or and ensuring long-term safety and security for our communities. As Senator Murkomen has mentioned, you can clearly see that in each particular region in our country, in each county, there are unique security and safety challenges, and therefore there's no one size fits all. And that is why we are emphasizing as civil society that there's a need for us to fast track the implementation of community policing, the community policing approach that brings together all stakeholders, that brings the business community, the youth, the women, business people, and all other actors within a particular locality to identify, begin to map out their security challenges and look for solutions together. The biggest challenge that has been there is this police-centered approach for so many years. Yet we do know that police officers only stay in one area for a particular period and go away. But the community have the staying power. They're the ones who live in those areas. They're the ones who face those challenges on a daily basis. And therefore the need for the community, together with the police, to map out the key challenges and then draw a plan that lives beyond the tenure of any particular police officer, but that is long-term within that particular community.
So if you're going to get that, and assuming Mr. Mutyambai was listening, the Inspector General, where does he start from? How does he get to build this trust now?
Yeah, remember that the Inspector General, the third Inspector General of Police, Mr. Mutyambai, is a creation, or rather his office is a creation of the Constitution and the law. And the Constitution and the law provides him with very clear starting point. The National Police Service Act at section 96 to 100 clearly stipulates how he is to go about implementing the partnerships with the community. The Constitution as well at Article 244 mandates him or obliges him as well to develop this partnership. So he has a clear starting point in the law, and therefore he is clearly guided there. And that's the starting point. Now, as you may know, in the last few years, there have been initiatives in various counties on community policing that have been quite successful, especially on the issue of building trust and confidence between the public and the police. And therefore, if he is able to visit some of those areas, he'll see how creative police and communities have gone about developing this trust and confidence.
Okay.
Yeah.
So stay with me, gentlemen. We're coming back in a couple of minutes because we're talking about the entry of the Inspector General, and we're looking at what he can do to better the relationship between the police and Kenyans. But then there's also the aspect of the policemen and women as well. How does he make their life better so that together the country can move forward and ensure we are safe and secure? You're watching The Big Story. Thank you for staying with us. Let's take that break. We'll be back in a couple of